All right, ladies and gentlemen, episode 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Card Game Chronicles, or whatever this is fucking called, is here, with the episode titled Rose. And what else could this episode be about besides Black Rose Dragon? No, wait. I'm being told it's actually about Sky Striker Ace Rose. That would make sense since part 1 was about Ray. But yeah, no. Episode 2 is episode 1, but from Rose's perspective. Basically, while Ray is in the fight to go save her, we see what's going through Rose's mind and how she is kind of like thought of her history with Ray and how her history as a soldier has brought her to this point and what it kind of means for her going forward. Also, before we go any further, I should make it clear, I've never read the Sky Striker manga. I'm told there's like a thing in there that like Ray and Rose are the last two humans, but that's not really a thing in this, or at least not directly. So I'm not going to reference it. I'm just going to base everything on the text as how it is presented to me right here. Because, you know, that worked so well for the Sakamoto Days review. Anyways, so in this part, we see that from Ray's perspective, she has very much the standard shonen-y hero type dynamic with Rose. She feels that because they have fought before, they can understand each other more than like you could with someone else. And for that reason, Rose is a friend who must be saved and protected. Rose, on the other hand, has believed in this whole time that because they have clashed, her and Ray are enemies. Because, if I'm correct, they're from rival kingdoms, who both obviously have the same interests, because that's how kingdoms work. Therefore, they must always be at odds together, and therefore, any, like, longing or desire for a real friend, or maybe something a little bit more, because the Yuri baiting was real here. We all knew it was coming, but the Yuri baiting was real. This is anime. That's just the law of the land. But yeah, no, she, when faced with the idea of thinking of Ray as a friend, it almost feels like retreated further into the idea of just following, for lack of a better term, her programming, what she's told to do. And I think this is actually very well represented through their armors. Ray is very much putting herself out there. It's not a mecha suit. It is very clearly just a suit of armor that enhances her abilities. And some would say that's a little impractical. Like, shouldn't she have something covering her head? Like, it doesn't do your army very good when your star soldier has her brain splattered all over the battlefield, but whatever. But it very much feels like Ray is always putting herself out there. She is always showing that she believes in, like, the code of the warrior, or her ability to always, like, stand front and center and face whatever she is dealing with. Meanwhile, Rose feels the need to retreat further and further into a giant suit of armor, into the mecha. Like, basically, like, just be like the insides of this thing while the rest of the world is kept out at an arm's length as she fights to destroy it. I think this is a very neat contrast and a very neat idea. Was this what Konami artists were thinking when they thought of the Sky Striker cards originally? I don't know. It could have very well have just been that Konami's like, okay, the whole industry is moving in the direction of pretty anime people. That's what Ray's gonna be. So she's got to show her pretty anime face at all times. Now here's Rose. She's kind of the bad one. Bad guys in this context usually look like big scary robots. So boom, here we go. But again, just seeing how like the dynamic between these two kind of like makes you go back and looks at the card artworks of the two. And just makes you wonder, like I brought up on the I think I brought this up in the last video, how much I really love the contrast in the two Engage ult arts. And I think that was very well kind of highlighted through this anime. The idea of Ray, the straightforward hero, and Rose, the kind of like anger-driven, like quiet, sort of like not villain, but antagonist. I thought this was all in all really cool. Also, the battles look really cool. I love their little like sword fight on the big floating like Coliseum thing or whatever the heck they were on. I like seeing Rose kind of like realize in real time what Ray can mean to her in the future they can fight. I like that Rose's clothes evaporated. Wait, no, I didn't mean to say that. Don't demonetize me. No! But no, I thought this was just really strong. And fuck it, I want more. I love that ending. I love Rey being like, we're gonna fight these robots. And Rose being like, you got it, sister. Here's our weird Gios eyes as we summon our swords. And it's battle time. And they blew up the robot. And now the Rose and Rey gotta fight the robots. And yeah! If you couldn't tell, I'm really enjoying these little Chronicles series. They are not a replacement to the main anime in my eyes, but I think as we sit here and wait for Konami to get things settled for how they want to handle the next anime, which I'm pretty certain is what's happening, I think these are just a fun little inclusion to get in the meantime. But, since we still got some time left, because you got to make 10 minutes to reach that algorithm, I would like to address something. In the last video, I talked about how Yu-Gi-Oh! Players were mad that this did not appease them. This was not the replacement to an anime that they refused to acknowledge. And I would like to kind of go a little further from last time. I saw in particular more on this episode, a lot of the negative comments seem to revolve around the fact that, well, we want complex story, we want complex narrative, we want this, we want that, that's what we want, this isn't about being appeased. I don't think I was the only person to call Yu-Gi-Oh! Players out on their bullshit over this. But, if you are one of these people demanding a more deeper complex narrative from this, first up, I would like to say, good. You should. You have every right to. In my opinion, there is never anything wrong from demanding more from the media you consume. So many people, when I bring up issues I have with Cardfight Vanguard or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any number of series I talk about, they bring up, well, what do you want from it? It's just what it is. No. Once a story has proven that it can reach those highs, which many of the franchises I talk about on this channel tend to do, that is the standard by which they should be held. If you felt like there was a deep, complex story here and got the hint that's where that was going, you have every right to hold Konami accountable for not reaching a standard they have set. However, this is what I will say. If you want your Yu-Gi-Oh! To be more complicated, to have a more in-depth story, and to just give you a more satisfying narrative, you had that. You've had that for like 25 years. You had an anime that, while it was not always perfect, hell, I'd argue it just ended on its lowest point. You had an anime that constantly tried to give you something. It wasn't always perfect. Many mistakes were made along the way. But throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's 25-year history, I always felt like, as an anime, it always tried to be more than the sum of its parts. To deliver interesting stories, to have complex narratives, to have fascinating, nuanced characters. This franchise, in my opinion, always tried harder than it needed to, and always wanted to be a step ahead of its competitors. For years, Cardfight Vanguard was viewed as the discount Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't think that's because Yu-Gi-Oh! Came first. I genuinely believe, for a lot of its history, Cardfight Vanguard failed to live up to the standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Presented for what a card game anime can be. I believe that if you give a Yu-Gi-Oh! Show the chance, you will find something. Yes, you have to go along with the concept of using trading card games as like your battle mechanics. And you have to deal with the fact that it is a big commercial. This was also a big commercial. But I genuinely believe that once you choose to approach a Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime on its own terms, you were given everything you would want out of this. I didn't keep up with this anime. Talk about it weekly. Okay, not really as weekly as I used to be over the last couple years. But I did not keep going back to this show if I didn't believe something wasn't there worth watching. And if you are a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, and while I acknowledge it can be a little annoying that your favorite archetypes don't always get the love they deserve, trust me, I would much rather have seen Udius doing full-on Malice combos instead of summoning another forgettable galaxy monster. But I think you can find something to really like. And now that there's no Yu-Gi-Oh going on, now might be a good time to go back and take a look at some of the ones you could have found more interesting. I did not hate on Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush because I just thought it was god-awful and because it was a stupid kid show. I didn't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush because I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Can do better. Because there's been a lot of great examples of when Yu-Gi-Oh! Can. And you know what? I think the next thing to do on this channel, let's rank all 8 Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. Catch me for that next time. And until then, click to like, click to subscribe, and I already teased the next video, so I have no ending. Oh well, bye.